We'll call to order the Benton County Board of Commissioners meeting. Please join us on the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Beth, please.
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Pop.
Excused.
Commissioner Gopinski.
Here.
Commissioner Heinen.
Here. Oh, sorry, my turn. Now we're going to do approve or amend the agenda. We have one item. Monty?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the item entitled Land Services Technical Land Clerk, could you please add that as the second item under Administrator at 9:30? And that's all we have.
Anybody else have anything to add?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the amended agenda as presented. Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Announcement by the board chair. The county board meetings are broadcasted live, video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that the viewers can hear you. The county board observes Robert's Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the board's chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off the cell phones or turn your cell phones on vibrate. Thank you. Open forum, is there anybody out in the audience that would like to address the county board? Okay, moving forward. Consent agenda, 1 and 2, what would we like to do with that?
I'll move approval of consent agenda items 1 and 2.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and second. Any further discussion? We'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passed. At this time, Roxanne, Department of Development.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just gonna minimize that for a second here.
Roxanne, is the podium mic on?
Yep.
It is now. Okay, so the item that I have before you today is cleanup efforts at the Kings Inn site. I have been in contact with the property owner, Mr. Ronaldo, and he has been very cooperative. Unfortunately, he is unable to leave his residence, so everything that he does is remotely operated. We have been working with him, sending him letters, having him sign documents in any of the events, such as the erosion control. He did ask that we move forward with the erosion control, and that he is aware that this will be assessed back to his property. So I was able to get Desette's Landscaping and Contracting to install biologs at $1,400. It's a little bit hard to see here, but the black thing here is the biologs. There's a few pictures that I have of the site. What I was told from those who were on scene is that when they were spraying, the runoff was actually going towards the center of the lot. It was not going towards the lake. So we just went with a little bit of biologs along the lake shoreline. We didn't do it all the way around the site. So I can just see that I got out there, made sure that they had installed what they had said that they were going to install. And then I did take a few other photos of the site to give you an idea of what that looks like up close. And, well, it's pretty much in shambles. Just a few pictures here. In speaking with Mr. Ronaldo, he would like to move forward with having the county clean up and assess back his property. Now, that is not something that we are required to do or that we have to do. We can move forward with enforcement efforts. But that being said, he would need to be given a proper amount of time to clean this up on his own. At this time, he has until, I believe, around the end of November, which was about 60 days from the date of the incident. So we could move forward in that sense, or we can move forward hiring a contractor to clean up the site, which would be removal of the debris, removal of the, the remaining structure that's in the ground, and then filling that back in. There was a quote provided from Landwehr, and this was not by request or anything, it's just that they had provided removal of the debris only was $40,000, or around $40,000. So we can expect probably double that to remove all of the items and to fill it in. I wouldn't expect it more than double, but again, that's something we don't have answers to at this time. Staff did not want to get too far down that road if it was not the county board's desire to move forward with an agreement with Mr. Rinaldo for the cleanup and then assessment of those costs back to the property owner.
Wow, anything else on that?
Well, I can tell you that from discussions with him, I don't believe he's going to allow this to go tax forfeit, just so that we're aware.
So in your discussions with him, was he actually going to look out to get some estimates himself too on cleanup or not? Or did
No.
he just want the county to take care of that?
He wanted the county to take care of that. Of course, it's all subject to him actually signing that agreement and any interested parties. So if there's a mortgage holder or anybody else with interest on that property, they would also need to be in agreement with that. The process would be that I would move forward with contacting several contractors, getting a quote, likely 3 quotes on this, and then providing that within the agreement to Mr. Rinaldo to see if he's agreeable to that. If so, we'd sign the contract. If not, we would probably move forward with the enforcement efforts.
Mr.
Any
Chair,
questions?
yeah, I'd be, first of all, I'd be inclined to have the county get that cleaned up, especially here before winter. There's liability written all over that thing to me. One of the questions I would have is score funds or something like that, solid waste, able to be used to fund this in the short term? Or is that something we need to hit the general fund with? Any thoughts on that? Maybe Monty or Roxanne, short-term payment on this?
I guess we have started an account similar to how we did the Boundary Commission. So the funds would be, I'm not sure.
Well, essentially, our reserves front the cost.
Yep.
And at some point, hopefully, we recoup it
Right,
from the current owner or subsequent owners.
correct.
I think you already, Roxanne, looked into the issue whether solid waste could be used. I think the answer there was no.
They can't be used and then
Cleanup.
not reimbursed.
Right.
So there is no using it and.
I understand that, yeah. Okay, that's just my position. I'd be inclined to get some RFPs and see what this is gonna cost.
Yep. And I will tell you that this could be difficult to have completed this year. When I tried to get somebody out there to put the biologs in, I bet you I called, around 20 different places, and I think 2 of them were able to do that work for me. So, it could be difficult. I just want that to be out there.
I guess I don't have to ask. The question I have, Roxanne, is can we get a fence or something put around that whole property? Because people are still going on that and fishing off to the side of that.
So, and maybe Michelle can speak to this matter. I think she's online with us. But I don't know what our responsibility is for the safety of a private piece of property. I mean, there are roadblocks up, yes, and it's sort of the public's, they're trespassing essentially. And it would generally be the property owner's responsibility to report those. Of course, we don't have an on-site property owner, but I don't know what we can technically do for that. Michelle, do you have any insight on that?
I would concur with you, Roxanne. The county is limited in its ability to act at this time. Anything the county does would either have to be done with an agreement and the consent of the landowner, since it's private property, or after we have engaged in a court process to go and clean up that property. If we do not follow those processes, and then if the county, it could be seen as trespassing in its own right, or we would be stuck with that bill and there would be no option to recoup that cost.
Mr. Chair, Michelle or Roxanne, do you know if we were to we would assess this back to the property owner, is that a one-time assessment? Do they get an opportunity of paying this off 7 or 10 years?
And I think that's part of what that agreement would be. It would be similar to about the boundary line
Okay,
commission.
so the assumption is then that assessment breakdown would come back before the county board to be decided upon their repayment schedule?
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions for Roxanne? So we got a consensus then to move forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, next, Christopher Berg, Public Works Director. Discussion on memorial designation of a county highway.
Good morning. I just noted my full name in there. I felt like I was in trouble like my mother was calling me, so.
I had to do that.
We don't see your
Chris.
middle name there though, so that always counts.
Yeah. Well, Commissioners, I come before you today with a special request. Former Commissioner Dwayne Walter is here today. He came to my office last week. We had a brief conversation. So if it's okay with the board, I'd like to allow him to come up to the podium and kind of speak to all of us of what's on his mind today. So.
Are we gonna give him 2 minutes or just let him roll?
I won't take long, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, staff, interested parties. I am Dwayne J. Walter, 7665 Roundaby Road Northeast, Foley, Minnesota, 56329. I'll try to keep it really brief. About 3 weeks ago after church, a couple of veterans that go to our church caught me and said, you know, thank you for being involved with the memorial, getting it built and all this. And I said, well, thank you very much for the compliment. And they said, however, we've been to some counties and we've been to some cities where we've seen a roadway that has a designation of Veterans Memorial Drive, Veterans Memorial Road, whatever. And I said, well, I guess I'm not aware of that. I know about Veterans Drive in St. Cloud, but they say there's county roads that are. And I said, well, I could go to the county board and or do some research on it. But I said, my first question would be, I think all the people would have to have their addresses changed. And the two gentlemen I was talking to said, no, you don't have to do any of that. It's just you get another sign that's put on saying this road is Veterans Memorial Drive or whatever. And I said, well, do you guys have a road in mind? And they said, yes, we do. What is it? I said, County Road 4. It starts in Foley, drives out here, it goes all the way to the Max County line. I said, well, that's a good one, because they said, I think it goes right by Commissioner Scott Johnson's house.
What's that address?
So I said, I will bring it to the county board. Well, I got thinking about it, and I thought, rather than just come to the county board, I better check with the county engineer, Mr. Bird. So I did go out and visit with Chris, and he said he was aware of it, I guess, and but he said he was gonna do some research on it. I have no idea what his research came up with, but and I'm not here on, first of all, let me clarify, I'm not here on behalf of the Full American Legion. The guys certainly aren't against it, but I haven't brought it up to the Legion and got approval of saying a motion and all that. But these other two veterans both belong to the Legion. I've talked to several Legion members about it. Everybody's in agreement that it would be a good thing to do. So that's why I'm here. I have no idea, again, what Mr. Bird is going to say for research. If there would be a cost, I think I can probably come up with the funds somewhere to pay for the signs. If the county will want to donate it, I have no problem with that. So I'll turn it back over to Chris, and he can tell you what he found out. But again, I'm just here to request that if it's possible, if you do a resolution or whatever, we'd sure like to do that, and possibly we'd have some veterans here and we could do it that way. So I'm just throwing out a suggestion. So thank you for your time. Try to keep it short. So.
Thanks,
You
Dwayne.
did good, it's only 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, very good. So I did do some research. I first went to statute and seen what was allowed. Interestingly enough, there's some statutes that says on Minnesota trunk highways, those kind of designations can only occur as part of a legislative action. So some of those specific individuals that are memorialized, that's actually, went to the legislature and they passed a law saying this section of roadway would be designated. For counties, it's a little more vague, so I reached out to all the other county engineers to find out what was done. And some have done this, and it's been usually a resolution or a proclamation that was adopted by the county board that specifies a section of road or a road. I would want to caution against, officially changing designation as to not cause confusion for 911 addresses and things like that. There are some requirements in the manual of uniform traffic control devices on size and lettering of signs and things like that. So if anything does get erected in the right of way, we'd be obligated to follow those requirements and those specifications for signs. But yeah, those counties that have done this, I have sample resolutions from those county engineers of what they adopted in their counties. So we have some examples to go on. So I think it just opens up a discussion. If this is something the board would like to pursue more, we can discuss at a work session, or you can direct me how you'd like to see fit.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Johnson?
I think it'd be greatly appreciated and appropriate to honor our veterans this way if it's something that we can do. I guess my thought would be is if we could have some consensus for Dwayne and Chris to get together again and bring a proposal or a resolution proposal maybe to the county board, and moving forward, you can talk to him about sign sizes and those type of things and get the details worked out and bring your veterans with you to that board meeting, and hopefully we can honor that and give some approval to move forward, would be my thought.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're in no, this is not a life or death issue by
Sure.
any means, We're in no big hurry, but if it can be done, even in the spring, be fantastic.
Yep, and I would agree. I think there's some consensus, hopefully, that we would just let you bring that back to us when you're ready, and we could move forward with that.
I can work with Chris and we can come up with something. Sure. And if you want any other discussion or information, I'll certainly try to get it if you do need anything else.
So the question I have, Chris, is how many signs do they normally put on the roadways?
I would think one at each end of the length of the road. It brings up the question if we're thinking about CASA for the whole width of the county or just east of Foley or something.
My initial
Yeah,
thought,
more than
Mr.
two, I
Chair,
don't
would
know.
be the whole length of number 4.
Okay.
Because it's a very long stretch.
It is, cuts the whole county, yep.
Yeah. We do have that break kind of in town here,
Sure.
so maybe we'd have one on the west side of town and on the east side of town, and then at either end of the county as well. So maybe about 4 signs or so.
Sure.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I
sir.
would agree on that. The only thing is I would make sure that we do keep the 911 addresses and make sure we work with our fire and police and they know what's going on. But I think it's a great way to honor our veterans.
Okay, I guess you've got a direction then, Chris.
Yeah, I do hear a consensus, so we'll
Well, thank you.
continue.
Thank you.
working. So,
Thank you.
all right, thanks for
Great.
coming by
Thank
today.
you, Chris.
All right, if you allow me a few more minutes, I was just going to provide a brief update on some happenings at the Highway Department. Talking about construction projects, our County Road 80 project is underway. The road is closed. That closed down last week. The bridge has been removed, and culvert sections are to be delivered this week. However, the site is flooded. So we talked about this in the past. We've been getting pictures, so I do plan on bringing a presentation to show pictures and stuff of the progress of the project. But in short, when they do these projects, the contractor usually builds a cofferdam upstream. And they have 1 or 2 options. They can use pumps to keep that water flowing around the project, or sometimes they'll even excavate a bypass channel. Well, the contractor, like I said, has the option. They chose to build a cofferdam and use pumps. The water got around the cofferdam last week, and now they've had pumps running constantly since like last Wednesday or Tuesday. And we're just hoping that water goes down and we can get those box sections placed still yet this week. Now flipping to County Road 50, that closed yesterday. They were able to get that bridge out yesterday as well. Box culvert sections are supposed to be delivered this week as well, and we're hoping that by the end of this week that we have that opened again. That's a gravel road, so that should be simple to do. I should back up. County Road 80, that's a paved road on the side of the bridge. We're being told from the paving contractors in the area that the bituminous plants are probably going to shut down after this week. So it's looking less and less likely that we'll get a blacktop surface backed on County Road 80 still yet this year. But we should be able to get the road open, and it'll just be a short patch of gravel section that the traffic will be driving on.
So does that mean that there'll be gravel this winter and in the spring you'll put bituminous on it?
That's right. Yeah, we'll hold that contract open, since that was part of that contract, was to put a bituminous surface back on it. We'll just hold that open until next spring and expect them to pave that then. So we discussed it with maintenance, because then that becomes kind of a maintenance kind of burden over the winter. I think we have some millings. If we need to, we may put some millings that pack in there a little bit tighter to give a little bit tighter surface over the winter, since that is kind of a busy road and not normally a gravel road. But speaking of gravel roads, our CASA 22 project is fully reclaimed, and pipe work is continuing, but that should finish up this week, and the contractor should be finished with their obligations by Friday. Now, that road, it was our intention all along to leave that gravel over the winter anyways. So we've kind of got to an agreement with the contractor that if they get that gravel surface shaped up to our satisfaction, then our maintenance will take over that. So it means we'll be plowing snow on it, but if the gravel needs to be touched up before next spring, that'll be our maintenance kind of touching that up. So that should be, that kind of switchover happens Friday. It's their project till Friday, and it sounds like Monday it'll be our maintenance responsibility after that, which is typical of these reclaimed projects. On the maintenance side, we've been prepping all of our trucks for winter, and I think we're ready actually. So saw a few snowflakes actually yesterday morning, so it's like it could happen any day now, regardless of the forecast. So we're ready. We're ready for snow plowing. So in the meantime, our maintenance folks have been out brushing. They've been patching, pothole patching still with cold patch material. Our blade operators have been shaping up our gravel roads. We kind of put a little bit, we like to get to almost a 4% slope over the winter, so we make sure water sheds off of it. And just make sure those are nice and tight before snow starts falling and packing on those roads. And then in the shop, we're just doing equipment maintenance kind of things. Just an example this week, they're working on loader buckets and welding on new steel wear plates just to extend the life of those buckets. The steel gets thin, the metal gets thin, and if you don't maintain those, they could wear through, and then you're buying a new bucket, as opposed to just every so often welding. Basically, we're just welding steel plates on there that those wear down instead of the bucket itself. So those are the kind of things that are happening in the highway department right now, and kind of getting into winter mode. So.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question for Chris. Every time I drive on, I always want to ask, County 46 in Sauk Rapids, has that been turned over to Sauk Rapids yet, or where's the status on that?
Oh.
I see our county road
Haven't-
number is still there.
We have
haven't-
not been in sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we have not fully executed that. We've discussed it in maybe a few emails. What would need to happen is kind of a formal agreement and then a resolution by the board vacating that.
So when does that happen schedule-wise?
I guess it could happen at any time now. So if that's a direction that the board would like me to proceed, I can start talking to the city about that.
I guess I asked because I thought that was our intent.
That was the intent. I would like to be in on those conversations, but I think that should be kind of heading that direction.
Yeah, we'll have to set up a meeting with the city of Sauk Rapids,
Yeah,
with
sure.
Commissioner Gopinski, myself, and you,
Okay.
to have a discussion on that and try to persuade them.
We
that it'd be a
can
benefit.
certainly do that then, so, yeah. I like to think that we just paved it, we put new ADA ramps, the sidewalks. I like to think, that's got 20 years of life of road left. We're not turning over a poor conditioned road to them, so hopefully.
Now's the time to do it if we're gonna do it.
Correct, I
I
agree.
Where does 46 terminate though? At the bridge, at the middle of the bridge?
Technically, the edge of the bridge, the east side of the bridge.
The edge of the bridge is where 46 terminates.
yeah.
Okay.
It
So
crosses-
The bridge is not ours.
Correct.
Okay.
It's actually the bridge, since it spans the trunk highway, it's actually a MnDOT bridge.
Okay.
So their responsibility for inspection and maintenance of that bridge, so.
It'll be an interesting conversation with.
All right, well, thank you. We'll just let you two have at it then.
That's all I had, unless there was any other questions.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Good, thank you.
Well, we got one more minute, Chris. Got anything else?
Culverts?
No? No culverts, no bridges. Well, we have one more minute, 30 seconds before we start.
I'm not much of an entertainer, so we'll have to stand in silence.
Give it a try.
We'll play the
Oh,
Jeopardy music.
Okay, at this time, we'll conduct our Human Services Board meeting. Call to order. Approve or amend the agenda. Bob, do you have anything to add?
No changes.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passed. Consent agenda 1 and 2.
I'll move approval of consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bob, got anything to add to us?
I have nothing to add unless there are any questions that you may have of me.
Yeah, I was trying to get a hold of Sandy. I see she's not on. Was
She's,
that?
she's out today, so.
Okay, she is, okay. So I think it was Tuesday where they had that clinic at the conventional center for the homelessness?
Yes.
How'd that go?
Be honest with you, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I guess nobody checked back with me on, I know that we participate in that and we
Right.
had some people there, so I assume it went well, otherwise I probably would have heard something, but I do not know.
Okay, that was the only question I had. Any other questions for Bob?
Could you just give us
Commissioner
a
Schlangen?
little rundown on the child assistance plan and how it works?
Sure, I prepared for that.
We should have, just for your clarification, we should have pulled it. But we will
Oh.
go ahead and act on it anyway, even though we already passed it.
Yeah, what it is it's a 2-year plan. Every 2 years, the state gives us discretion on some of the things that we can do on the child care assistance program. But we must post it for 30 days, allow for public input. And at that point in time, it allows us to do some things. We have to provide a plan that, how we're gonna handle the child care assistance program, whether we're gonna have a waiting list if it starts climbing too far. And by the way, right now, we are too far in the red in our plan. So in June, we put a stop to our child care assistance program and put a waiting list on there because I think we were about 80,000 over and we're hoping that it continues to climb down. I think that there's just such a need. The way that typically works is the state has an aggregate pool of this funds, and I see that we're only one of 7 or 8 counties that are in the red. So typically what they do is they will, at the end of the day, make everybody whole on that. But they've always told us that there's never a guarantee that they do that. If 50 counties were in the red, then they wouldn't be able to do it. But since we're one of 7 or 8 counties that are, and like I said, we attempted to try and correct that in June, and we're slowly seeing ourselves back down into the area where we are okay again, but we still have a little ways to go yet. But as a side note, so I think that those are some of the things that we do in this plan as we try to act accordingly on how our assistance plan for child care providers works. So, and there's other things that we have to do is we have to provide a plan for how we're gonna handle transportation and that. So there's many things. That, by the way, is posted on the website, so anytime you wanted to look at the plan, it's about 23 pages, I think it is. So it's pretty in-depth on how we're gonna do that. So if you do choose to want more information than I can provide. But anyway, it's due every 2 years.
Okay, anything else, Bob? Anything else from the commissioners, from the boards? Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Bob.
At this time, we'll adjourn the Human Services Board meeting, reconvene our regular board meeting. Monty, consider request of the Anoka County for one contracted bed at the East Central Regional Juvenile Center.
I'll introduce the item and we'll go from there. So we have Dylan Workington from Anoka County is here to make a presentation. And also with us virtually is Deb Anders from Progressions. I know she'd like to make some comments as well afterwards. And it looks like Troy is with us. Troy is our Benton County Sheriff. So Dylan, good morning. Welcome. Let's get that presentation going for you. Let's see, here we go. And if you'd like, you can just use this to scroll through
All right.
the presentation. All right. And I provided Dylan with the questions you gave me at the last board meeting, so I think he's prepared to try and address those questions.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I
Good morning.
appreciate taking some time to just hear a presentation this morning on the East Central Regional Juvenile Center. I appreciate also Monty Headley's leadership and guidance to me as well. Love county government, by the way. Love to listen to your meeting. Started out my career in Rock and Nobles counties in southwestern Minnesota, and been with Anoka County for 33 years, and so just have a real heart for roads and ditches and culverts and different topics like that we all deal with. So appreciate that. Yeah, as Monty indicated, I'm here to request your consideration to rejoin a joint powers agreement that Benton County was part of back at its origin with the East Central Regional Juvenile Center. East Central Regional Juvenile Center is located in Lino Lakes, Minnesota. Your sheriff makes a frequent visit to our facility. Still, not so much this year, and I'll show you some numbers, but other years even more so than currently. And so we work closely with Deb Anderson from the Department of Corrections as well. Anoka County operates the facility. We don't own the facility, we just operate it on behalf of the joint powers counties. And so I'll go over what that looks like. We run 3 juvenile programs, so we have 2 other buildings that are on the property, and some of the things that have changed over time. So as Monty indicated, it will include a request to rejoin this joint powers agreement in a lesser capacity than what Benton County was part of years ago. And as I talked to Monty, that relationship has changed over time, and you're all new commissioners since the mid-1990s, so this is potentially new information for some of you, but something that we've dealt with for a long time. Just history-wise, in 1995, there was a crisis in Minnesota. That crisis was a lack of juvenile detention space. So the local sheriff's departments, police departments have a kid that's out of control in the community, nowhere to go. And so sheriff's departments were forced to do 8-day holds within jails in order to accommodate this. Legislation changed, and that was no longer an option. Can't do that anymore, and you can't mix those populations. As a matter of fact, the regulations today is far more restrictive than it ever has been before, with Prison Rape Elimination Act and a variety of other stressors on facilities. With a very limited options, there was a regional discussion that started, and because Anoka County ran juvenile programs, ACJC, Anoka County Juvenile Centers, it was decided by the 11 member counties that there would be a new facility built with some grant money, and that facility would be operated by Anoka County because we already did that kind of work. And so, in 1997, that regional solution opened. It's presently, even today, is the solution for 25% of the state of Minnesota. So it's a large region in which we cover. We sell beds to on behalf of the Joint Powers Agreement, and in other facilities to a large portion of the state. Some years up to 45 counties have utilized the program. Just like every farmer cannot own their own combine, it's pretty obvious that every county can't run a juvenile facility and have juvenile solutions. And things have changed since 1995, and I'm going to let you know exactly how much it's changed. But as I indicated, we serve Washington County, Mille Lacs County, Wright County are part of this, and Kanabec County, a variety. We have currently a renewed relationship with Stearns County as well, and so they're going to consider this same option coming up in later November. This is a critical service also for females. Very rare that you have a female in a juvenile program, but when you need space, there's not a lot of options because there's so few that need that space. So we operate this facility on behalf of those member counties. And so just spending a little bit of time in 1997 when this opened, Benton County was a part member. You had a joint powers agreement with this facility for 3 beds. And we had a membership of 32 beds. We have a facility that houses 36, and we were guaranteed in operations 32-bed per diem rate by the member counties. As stresses happen, and I'm just thinking back in my own county history, 2003, 2005, 2008, very tough years in the state of Minnesota for budgets. Also just trying to control out-of-home placement costs. Every county does this. These are expensive options. Our membership went down to a 24-bed member after the first joint powers agreement had been renegotiated. And Benton and Stearns County dropped out of that membership somewhere along that line. I think when I talked to Monty, that might have been somewhere around 2008, 2010, somewhere in that region. So probably corresponding to some pretty tough and lean budget years. Also just reviewing for Benton County how many kids. 3 is quite a commitment actually for a county of your size, so that's might have been part of that as well. So we renegotiated with the member counties remaining for a 24-bed membership. And that has been operational since 2012. That's about the time that I took over as director of Anoka County Corrections, so it corresponds over the last 9 years, and we're moving into a need to renegotiate that bed membership. And so we've spent a lot of time. The landscape has changed. There's a lesser need, and I'll go over a little bit what COVID did to juvenile programs as well. But we're really at a concerning point with only 22.5. If Benton were to be into this and Stearns would agree to come into it, that would give us a membership of 22.5 beds. And as I talked to Monty, if you look at your own jail, if you reduce your jail population, it still costs the same to operate. There's no operational cost difference. And so as the juvenile populations in these facilities fluctuate, there is no reduction in cost other than maybe some ancillary costs in food, et cetera. But the majority of the costs still remain. And with the Prison Rape Elimination Act, we've had to add staff to the facility as well to get to federal guideline regulations, and that protects member counties in litigation as well for us to be compliant. So we follow Department of Licensing rules, got to follow the PREA guidelines. There's also all sorts of other rules that we have to follow just by hiring practices. We used to do a lot of temporary employment to kind of bridge the gap for vacations and sick time and other leaves. And the rules of those engagements have changed as well over time. Affordable Care Act, a variety of different stressors on all of those things. So we're really at a concerning point. So what you do is you can increase the cost per day in order to accommodate this, and we're doing that. That's happening throughout the state, as also many facilities have closed. So without supporting members, this facility would likely go away. Anoka County is not going to fund it on behalf of other counties. We certainly want to be participants, probably still continue to sell beds in other facilities, but we would not be able to fund this on our own, and or to contain costs on our own either. We're just trying to be diligent in how we operate. So this is a map. This is security detention facilities available to Benton County. So this map really reflects essentially probably the next closest place is Prairie Lakes, which I'm sure Benton uses on occasion. But if you look at this map, and this is who sells beds, there are a couple other facilities in the metro area, but they're not selling beds. Ramsey, Hennepin County do not sell beds to other counties. They've actually closed programs. Totem Town, as well as the Hennepin County Homeschool, have also closed this last year. And so there's a lot of changes on the landscape. But if you look where you are in Benton County, you know that well. And then if Anoka County were to go away, if this East Central Regional Juvenile Center goes away, you can see that your sheriff or your law enforcement for that kid on Friday night would be traveling a pretty good distance to find space, if in fact they allow that particular kid in. And so a lot of facilities just say, hey, we've had this young man before, or this young lady, too tough for us. We don't want to take that person. And so part of a membership is that we give a wide variation on acceptance. And so it's pretty much a guaranteed we're going to take the person that is brought to us. And so, but this just gives a good descriptor of how few and far between these programs are. This map was not the same 10 years ago when you drew out of our program. This map has changed. Many facilities are on the bubble right now, and not too dissimilar to Anoka County, as we've all gone through juvenile detention alternative initiatives as well to try to alleviate the number of kids in placement. So I'm not trying to talk more kids in placement. I'm just looking to, to kind of put a little bit more support behind the combine. This was a question that you all had. What is the RJC bill back history for the last 5 years? This is the monies that counties have committed to but not used if you look at it on a per diem basis. So when you look over the last 5 years, you can see that the member counties are utilizing the program less, especially when we get to a COVID year of 2020. All of them understand that without this regional solution, they would be sunk. So it's kind of a balancing act, and we're trying to figure out how to balance this. Anoka County's numbers are a little bit deceptive in that we ensure that we're going to use our 5 beds. We toggle to another facility that we operate if in fact we're over the 5 beds, so we don't pay any more than what we commit. But we're just like every other member county, we pay a per diem rate. And so I just ensure every year that we're at zero. And so we don't pay an extra, but we pay our full freight of the 5 beds we're committed to. Washington County, as a matter of fact, is an interesting county. In talking with their director and their county commissioners who are on our advisory board as well, they just basically said, hey, we would have to build a juvenile center. We don't want to do that. We're going to commit 5 beds whether we use them or not, because I'd rather have you run the facility for us than have to do that and to figure out a bricks and mortar solution. And I don't think there's a will throughout the state right now to do another bricks and mortar solution, so utilizing the ones we have are appropriate. So 2020 is the COVID year. Most counties continue to pay in. And if you look at which counties are similar, it's every year is a little different. So Pine County, for instance, utilized all their beds up until 2019, and they had a portion of one bed that they didn't use, and so they continued to pay that. So this kind of gives a perspective. The rate that we charge Benton County right now is reflective of that $1 million. So other counties paid in a lot of money to be part of this, which keeps our per diem rate low, or lower than it probably would be, and I'll go over what that would look like. So, and that's this slide here. If we took 2020, we averaged 20 kids per day in our 36-bed facility. If we take all of our costs and divide that by the 20, the actual cost of the program was $430 a day. But because we had a membership, we were able to keep that cost lower. And so that's a critical piece. So this particular commitments to these kinds of programs help all of us save money as well. So this is Benton County, just how you use the facility. So the 5-year average daily population for Benton County is 0.96. You're pretty much using a full bed up until this year. So you've had a good year regarding juvenile detention space at RJC, and you've only used 27 beds. And so I'm coming to you on a bad year, but that's good in the sense that you haven't had to use, your sheriff hasn't had to go that direction and can spend time doing other work. But at the same time, if you look at the actual averages, including 2020 during COVID, you used 409 beds. And so that particular year, and this is true for every county, these cycles go up and down. You get a couple of bad youth in programs, you need a lot of detention space one year, you don't use as much the next. So you're, if you look at it from a 5-year perspective, 2018 was a low year. 2021 is the lowest year so far. Now, we're not done with 2021, and All it takes is one kid and you're back, those numbers turn around real quick. So essentially a one-bed membership costs $104,024 at present rates. So that's what the commitment would be for a one-bed membership. That would be about the equivalent of 307 days used. Because essentially the rate differentiation for members and non-members is going to really skew. The members are going to take care of themselves and vote for lower rates amongst our advisory board group, and the non-members are going to pay more and more and more. And so this is a trend because these costs keep continuing. Some preferences for member counties. So as I indicated, we have an Anoka County secure program, secure juvenile sex offender program. Within that, we also have a non-secure program. So let's say one of your judges decides this person shouldn't be in secure detention, we can't send them home, I want them at a non-secure environment. Well, that's not, the rate of that is not part of this, but we just walk the kid over if you want that other facility. For whatever reason, there's no transportation that goes along with that. We just walk the kid over to the next building and they start a different program. So there's also RJC offers remote detention hearings. So there's, we added that during the COVID time period. We've done virtual therapy and virtual visits as well. We want to keep parents and kids connected. And we offer guaranteed bed space as we have overflow capacity as well. And so, which is not always true for all programs. So some of the dynamic factors, I touched on some of these, so I won't repeat them too much here, but shrinking juvenile populations. If you look at the state of Minnesota, I'm sure it's true for Benton County, it's true for Anoka County. We have fewer kids in our community, fewer kids by birth. And so generally speaking, that's a shrinking population, and then those kids doing delinquent acts is also shrinking as well. So juvenile probation numbers have shrunk statewide as well as specifically in most counties. Law enforcement is disengaged from a process. It was generally law enforcement that built this RJC facility, but they've all since retired. Problem solved, and we haven't done a very good job in keeping sheriffs connected to the need that they have, but that's always been met. And so that's part of what this is talking about, is to just re-engage conversation. So we just need a larger commitment of folks to really commit to our program. I talked about the PREA guidelines, statewide reduction in juvenile placements, which is a good thing. We're not begging for more kids to be in placement, actually just the opposite. But when we need these programs, it's difficult to find. So our current proposed rates for 2022, the member rate is $285. The non-member rate is $340. This is part of the reality of just what it's costing. We actually have to average 31 kids in placement in order to make budget. So what I do as director is I control expenses as much as I can. You know, just like everybody does, try to drive down costs when we don't have as many kids in placement. But members saved, based on these rates, if you used a full 365 days, you'd save $20,000 if that were the case. In most years it is, but not this year and not in 2016. So how do we bill? And I think this has changed. This will be in the new joint powers. We used to bill you for what you used, and then at the end of the year, we reconcile that to your commitment, and that's where you got a big bill. And I think that was one of the issues that Benton County had in the past, was that we got this big bill for what we didn't use. And so we're kind of changing that up a little bit in the new joint powers. We're going to send 12 equal invoices for the membership commitment, so it spaces out over time. Then we're going to reconcile at the end of the year. And if you've overused your beds, you get the 285 rate. If you underused your bed space, it goes towards the joint powers commitment. And so we've really done a good job, not just me, but my predecessors in operating facilities. And so we're pretty frugal. And so we've been able to also amass some operational funds, capital funds, and insurance funds. So this is what our estimates of our current bank balance is for the program. So the operational reserve is, let's say that we didn't make budget. Then we pull out of this reserve account. If we do make budget, but we have an excess, then the joint powers counties decide how that's going to be handled. And so that money could be returned to the county. It's generally per county so low that it's not worth it, and it's better to actually take care of the facility or to have it in the bank for the future. And so our capital reserve was up over $1 million. We just pulled out 500,000 or thereabouts. I've got that projected here to do a new camera control intercom system within the building. So the building is well oiled. It's a nice facility. I'd invite you, if you want to come down and review it and look at it, you'd be welcome to do that as well. We have done well to do this. So we work with our facilities management and construction group to determine tuck pointing and roof repairs, et cetera. So all of that is taken care of within this fund as well. So the request is that for Benton County to rejoin the East Central Regional Juvenile Center Joint Powers Agreement, and to do that at a one-bed membership at a cost annually of $104,024. So, thank you very much for being gracious. I appreciate your time, and I know how these things work, so I thank you for allowing me to do this.
Thank you. Commissioner Kapinski?
Mr. Chair, I got a question. Now, if the beds aren't completely full, I thought it was 24, then the memberships would be charged for that added amount?
There is a provision, if we don't make budget, there is a provision to utilize the reserve funds first to help make budget. That's always by our board, our Joint Powers Board agreement. We meet quarterly and make decisions. There is a provision in the contract itself that there could be a liability to counties to help make it whole. However, we have never used that. That's never been used. As a matter of fact, we have probably 19 out of the last 20 years added money to our reserves as opposed to ask counties for more money. We've never actually used that. So this year, the projection is that right now, I watch those budgets carefully. I'm projecting a $50,000 to the good coming out of RJC. And we have to watch that because we have to change our per diem rates if stuff's not going well. So that's part of what we try to accomplish. If we had to do that mid-year, we've done one price adjustment mid-year to help cover. But typically, we would handle it through per diems.
I think the last meeting, I had added that into that amount, the overages. So
Correct.
it looks like we'd be capped pretty much at that 104.
I'm gonna see if I understand this. So you say you also house women in certain scenarios?
Yeah, we have a pod at the RJC facility for girls.
And then could that be used too against our membership then, as having one bed?
Yes, absolutely. So however your law enforcement or juvenile court needs us. So yeah, absolutely. So it's, if it's a female, you get credit towards your per diem rate, or if it's a male, it doesn't really matter to us.
Okay. Deb, you out there, you got something to add?
And let me get back on go-to so we can see that too.
I have a question.
Yes. I've worked with Lino Lakes, for a number of years. We've used them as our detention facility, both secure, non-secure. Some programming as well outside of the detention piece. As Dylan indicated, Mille Lacs County, recently just did the joint powers agreement. They were at 3 beds and we've gone down to 2. And the reason I bring it forward, and we've had those discussions as our rising, you know, we have periods in the last 7 years where we've had low detention, and Dylan did talk about that. And other years, we've had pretty consistent rate numbers or higher, which was 2020. And I did provide the board a listing of our detention costs from 2014 to 2020, just to give you a visual picture of what we've been expending for detention costs. And so you can see, I did it in a graph form. I also did it by the dollar amount so you could see it. And what you can see here is that, you know, we had 2 years of really decreased detention costs. That was 2015 and 2018. And then we had spikes of 2020, which was huge. And like Dylan talked about, 2 kids can really take care of your budget pretty quickly. In 2020, we had 2 kids there, placed by another county, but they were our residents, so we had to pay the cost because they are Benton County residents. But they were significantly high. They spent from May to December in detention, so they can take a big chunk of your costs. So that's what you saw in 2020. And then you've had 2014, 2017, and 2019 pretty stable. I mean, they were pretty equal in the time and the dollars we used, as you can see, just even in the graph picture. And so then I decided, well, I'll break this out for you, and so you can see like the growth rates when they're down, when they're up, and then I averaged that growth rate. And we, you know, over 7 years, it's about a 23% increase in what we've been expending for dollars on detention costs. So I just kind of wanted to give you that breakdown, and also to really update you that, as Dylan said, many of the other detention and other placements have either closed, and they're also looking at per diem increases. I know Sheriff Peck provided Prairie Lake's cost per diem, but that is going up in fiscal year 22. I just talked to them, just got off the phone early this morning with them. Their per diem for secure will be going up to $300 a day from $256. So.
And Deb, is that the member rate for Prairie Lakes?
Prairie Lakes, no, that is not the member rate. If you want to do a member rate, we have to do we have to contact them, and it has to be approved by both our board and their board, and that is $10 less, so that would be $290.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Sheriff Troy Heck, you got something to add?
Say that having a certainty of a bed when we need it is a very good thing. And from what's been described by Deb and by Dylan, it sounds like it's a good option here.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Schlangen, you had a question?
Yes, I was wondering how many total beds that you had, and with the male and female, if they're separate, or if you can just use any bed for them, or how that goes.
Yeah, so the, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Schlangen, if I'm saying that correctly, appreciate that question. So there are 36 beds in that facility. They're divided into 3 pods. Typically, the center pod is our female pod, and they are separated. If we have overflow, we have 2 tiers in that pod. And so we can, through time and space, utilize some of that pod for male overflow if it's necessary, but typically the females are isolated in a separate area. And that's all governed actually also by the Prison Rape Elimination Act, so we're fully compliant and have been audited and follow all audit suggestions.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a handful of questions, actually a couple here for the sheriff first. Sheriff Heck, how many times do you typically, or have you in the past year, for instance, gone to Wilmer versus Anoka?
So just to clarify, when we bring, our responsibility for the housing of juveniles starts when they're arrested and ends when they go to court. So I only have numbers on those brief periods of time when we take somebody and we have to bring them, to a facility. So the numbers I have are gonna be much lower than the numbers Deb has, because once that juvenile's gone to court, then Deb's budget takes care of those. I would say, I can tell you that, we haven't had a lot on my budget lately, and that when we do go to, when we do have to bring somebody, it's most frequently going to, Brainerd or Crow Wing for that short-term stay in the past, because, we haven't had the contract with them also. I'm not sure if I answered your
Yeah,
question, or
yeah.
maybe Deb can add.
No, that makes sense. That's kind of what I was looking for. Also, Dylan in his presentation talked about the availability at Anoka. Have you ever been denied at Anoka to be able to get in?
To the best of my recollection, no. We really have, we've been fortunate in the last probably 2 or 3 years that we've been able to find placement fairly easily, so that hasn't been an issue.
Okay. And lastly, has Michelle Meyer reviewed the JPA agreement that's been proposed at all, or do you know the status of that? Monty maybe could.
Pending any sort of direction from the board, I haven't asked Michelle to review the joint powers agreement. It's been around for many years. I don't know necessarily it'd take a long time to review it, but of course we would have her review it. There's also would be a contract with Anoka County, if I'm correct. We'd ask her to review, yes.
And just a couple other quick questions, thank you. Who owns the facility? I know you talked about the Joint Powers Board, so you talked about who built it, but who owns it today?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnson, the ownership of the building would revert to Anoka County should the building close. It's on Anoka County property.
Okay.
So it reverts by agreement of the originating counties as well as the Joint Powers Agreement. Operations, we have 2 committees. We have an operational subcommittee. So Deb would be part of that, and could be part of that also with Mille Lacs County, because Mille Lacs County has changed from the county probation office to a DOC contract. And so Deb would be part of that group as well. But where there's issues where we would, let's say Benton County would like us to operate a little different, that gives a voice to programming. But then also we have the Joint Powers Committee that meets. Generally, there's a commissioner that comes from each jurisdiction, as well as the Director of Corrections in that particular region. And those decisions are kind of made there as well. And so, but overall, there was a grant, as I indicated, that built the facility, and Benton County actually was a part of that. As part of the Joint Powers Agreement, what was a contribution on Benton County's behalf. And so it was kind of some grant money that came through your county that helped build it.
Sure.
And so, but as far as the ownership of it, if we were to close, it would go to Anoka.
Okay, and then also just an extension on that, who's actually on that JPA board? Are all member counties represented?
All member counties are on it. One change from the last is that we have some member counties that have, Washington County, for instance, Wright County, who have committed and maintained high membership. Anoka is part of it. And so we did do more of a weighted scale in voting. So if you have more membership, there's more say in higher decisions, less membership, less of a say. So originally, it was not so important. Benton County had 3 beds, Anoka had 5, Wright County had 6 at the original, Washington County had 5. Now when all things are shaking out and counties have wanted to shrink their membership, some of the larger counties have said, well, hey, wait a minute. We all get 1 vote, but one county's putting in $500,000 a year or $600,000 a year, and another's putting in far less than that. And so we did modify that for the current joint powers, along with the reconciliation with the monthly billing, which I think is outstanding for counties anyways, to be able to budget and have, they know what they're gonna pay, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. This is a question for Sheriff Heck. I heard you saying that we go to Crow Wing and stuff like that. If we got this bed, I would assume that instead of going to Crow Wing, we'd utilize our Anoka County bed first and then go.
Yes, that would make sense to me as well.
Okay. That's all I have. I look at the numbers and there's not 1 year we haven't been paying $104,000, so it's an easy decision for me.
I'd have to agree with
I
you.
do too.
Troy, I don't know if you gave us the numbers, but you said the last couple of years we've been using Crow Wing. How much have we been paying them for beds? On the average, if you have that number.
So actually, the degree of juvenile boarding coming out of my budget has been very small the last few years. Total each year, it's less than $2,000 that I've paid.
Oh, okay.
My budget.
Okay.
So can I address support? The Crow Wing placement? The Crow Wing placement is just in the interim till they get to court, is that correct, Troy? Right, Sheriff? It's just very short term, it's made just so they can get into court for an initial appearance. You just need to remove them, right?
I don't know if Troy
Yep,
heard
there
that.
he is.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was distracted.
Okay, so the use of court is a non-secure. It is just for a short period of time until they have their initial appearance. Like if they were apprehended that night, you just place them in court till you can get them into court. That's correct, right?
I would think that's accurate, yeah.
Okay, any other discussions or any more questions for Dylan or Deb or Troy?
I have none, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
from my standpoint, I think we should move ahead with this bed. I think it makes financial sense. It makes, it hedges our bet on trying to find beds in the future. We don't want facilities like this to go away. I think the need is still out there, so that would be my direction.
Commissioner Schlangen?
Yeah, it looks like they have extra beds too, so for overflow.
Commissioner
Good.
Johnson?
Yeah, I agree. I'm in consensus with this. I don't know if Commissioner Kapinski is offering that up as a motion to move ahead with this contract, but
Monty, what do we do next? Just a direction to go
I
forward?
think, yeah, that would be sufficient today is direction or consensus for me to bring back to you then a subsequent meeting, the joint powers agreement and the contract with Anoka for the one bed.
Okay.
So
and
as soon
we
as I
could-
can get that done, I'm gonna bring it back to you.
Okay, will that happen in December probably?
I'll do my best.
January? Okay.
I'll do my best.
all right.
And I know the joint powers agreement and the contract are ready, just a matter of getting it to Michelle. That's Michelle Meyer, Assistant County Attorney, for review. So I'll get it back here as soon as I can. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Dylan, Deb,
Yep.
Sheriff Heck, thank you guys for your work on
Yes,
this.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank
See
you for
you
the
Thursday.
presentation.
Thank you.
See you Thursday,
Have a
Deb.
great day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Land Service Technical Land Clerk?
Okay.
Monty?
I believe Nadine is with us virtually and Mike is here, so I'll definitely invite them to join in on this discussion. I'm just presenting as if I may. So the proposal today is to take a position which is currently in the Land Service Department and officially move it to the Auditor Treasurer's Office. And as you see in the agenda item, this position up until 2016 was actually in the Auditor Treasurer's Office. It was there for many, many years. One of the core functions of this position basically is to maintain the integrity of the tax system, the parcel record. So in other words, let's just say a plat is created in a rural area and you take a parcel of land and you subdivide it. Well, all that has to be reflected in the tax system if properties are split off. Again, it's maintaining the accuracy and integrity of the property tax records. Another thing the position does is certification of the state deed and mortgage registry tax, which as we see in the agenda item is actually statutorily a treasurer function. And this position was required to be deputized by the auditor treasurer to perform that function whilst in the Land Services Department. And I know there have been discussions between Mike and Nadine over the past several months about what is the appropriate placement for this position. And I'm told the consensus of those folks is it's best placed back in the Auditor Treasurer's Office. Again, much of the work really originates from the Auditor Treasurer, and also I think because they can provide backup and that deputization function is no longer necessary. So hopefully I've accurately captured the major elements of that issue and invite Nadine and Mike to chime in if they wish to.
Thank you. Nadine, you have anything to add?
Oh, she's here in person.
Oh, wow, I'm looking on the screen going,
I,
come on,
I was
Nadine.
listening. Good morning.
Good morning.
So just want to add that Mike and I have, had multiple discussions regarding this position. And some of the complexities of it being, in land services versus the auditor treasurer's office. The function can be better supported. In our office, we have someone in our office that has done the position before, so that person can provide regular backup in the need of that staff member that does the job function now if they need some time off or they get sick. We'll be able to support the position and continue to move forward with a job task instead of them needing, I think what's happening now, and Mike, you can chime in too, but when that person is out, the work stacks up, which creates a lot of stress for her. That wouldn't be happening in my office if the functions move back, because we do have someone already deputized that did the job previously. So I think the process will go smoother, the flow will go smoother for both offices. As I said, Mike and I both support this decision. We think it's the best thing to do for that particular position. And as Monty mentioned, it is a statutory function in my office. So with your consent, we would like to request that we move that position back to my office. Do you have any questions for us?
Mr. Chair, if I could, without getting deep in the weeds or doing a lot of history, why is it that it got moved
Yep.
in the first place?
Yep, and prior to Mike and I, so this is with the previous auditor treasurer and the previous assessor. At the time, the position became vacant. It was in the auditor treasurer office. The position became vacant because the gentleman that did the position got a promotion and went to a different department. So now we had this open position. So that started conversations between the previous auditor treasurer and the assessor. Where is this position best suited? And at that time, they made the decision that they felt the position would be better suited under the assessor, because the assessor was going to provide additional training, guidance on that position. The assessor at that time wanted to utilize that person for some more things aside from just document processing that were in his office. So that decision was made. That was prior to Mike and I being here, and at that time it made sense. It doesn't make sense anymore that it remain over there because the support and the backup and the training piece of it can be better supported in my office. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If I could
Mike,
just add
yes.
something too. I think Brian had kind of a vision to hire a GIS person, somebody that with that skill set, and he originally did do that, but that it didn't. The job hasn't been able to stay going in that direction because the county has a GIS person, somebody who does GIS full time. So really, what you need in this position is somebody who's interested in working with legal descriptions and in that tax system, a lot of data entry. So I think the focus there was a little different back then. He was looking to try and move the county more in a GIS direction, and that didn't really pan out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Any
you.
further discussions or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to transfer the technical land land clerk position from land services to auditor treasurer's office, noting that the commencement date will be jointly agreed upon between the auditor treasurer and land services department.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, commissioner meeting updates.
I can go.
Commissioner Schlangen, you want to start?
I was at the TRICAP meeting. Let's see. They just went over all their programs and expenses. Just how, they got a new person, that they hired. And there, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and I've got a little list here. I'll let you finish up.
I'll
and
let
then
you go.
All right. So I was also in attendance at that. I ended up asking a question, and then I got a phone call to ask if I'd be on a committee. So
Yeah.
that's what you get for asking
wrong question.
Ask the wrong.
I just thought it was interesting. They did a little review of the energy assistance program, and kind of the numbers kind of popped out with the counties that they're dealing with. In Benton County, through primary heat energy assistance, 909 households, $455,000 was divvied out. Also in Benton County, crisis situations, and crisis definitions are past due bills, or disconnections, or shut-offs of fuel deliveries. They want to prevent any life-threatening or no heat situations. Benton County, 268 households, $201,000. Also the ERR, or energy-related repairs of heating systems, those in Benton County, 36 households, $36,000. One thing I did ask them though too, because I thought it would be interesting data for us, is what does that mean geographically? Did all these happen in Foley and Sauk Rapids, East St. Cloud? Where did these happen? And so Lori said that she would put that information together and I think report on that next month to us on just kind of the geographic breakdown. I just thought it would be interesting to see that. So that was kind of my highlights from TRICAP also. That was the only committee that I was on, with the exception of the broadband committee yesterday, which I'm sure Commissioner Kapinski would love to update us on. And so I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Commissioner Gopinski.
All right. Well, I've had a few. One I wasn't sure I was on, but it ended up turning out to be a good one, the RX one. That actually was kind of interesting on how all the funds and how the drugs for the county level get brought up.
You're referring to, it was Nina that Southwest Collaborative.
Correct, yep.
For our health insurance.
Yep.
Discussing the pharmacy rebate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So the pharmacy rebates, the preferred one group, basically increased our admin by $19 per person, guaranteed rebates of $510,000 coming back to us. A solution, RX fee or a fee of $47,000. Basically, in a nutshell, it's a $207,000 benefit coming back to all counties and participants, which will be divvied up equally between people that are covered under this plan. So it's a one-year deal to try and get some of the money back. They're still not real happy about the $510,000. They thought it should be more. Correct me if I'm wrong, Johanna.
Caught her off guard.
No, you're accurate.
Okay, so I do believe that this is gonna be looked at next year again, so it was very, it was a good meeting to be on. Learned a little bit about medications and how they get paid for and get rebated back, so. With that said, we had our district meeting. That was fun. We're starting to get to know some people, so you don't go there and you're not the newbie anymore, and people don't know who we are, so. Couple things come out of that.
They still tend to stick out though, right?
Yeah, we stick out. So, let's see here. We had the Benton Economic Partnership, basically, just a quarterly meeting. That was informational. It was at the Sauk Rapids, new park building. I think we got to show that off. That's a great facility if people are gonna have, outings and everything like that.
Very nice.
Let's see here, New Life Church, we were there. We all attended. That was a very good fundraiser for them, for the CARES. So I think Commissioner Johnson, I think they were gonna get back to us.
Yeah, we kind of offered up the idea to their board that maybe Commissioner Kapinski and myself could share a board position there. It's Thursday night board meetings for them, and that's a conflict for him and I a lot. So we thought if we could tag team maybe that's something we could offer to them. So we're kind of waiting to hear back and see if that's something that would work for them, if they want some participation from the county board on that.
Okay. And then my last one was the Central Minnesota Medical Services Board. There were some stats that came out of there. Out of everybody that's been vaccinated on the COVID shots, 51,000 people in Minnesota have gotten it a second time. And that's 1.6% of the people that have gotten it a second time after being fully vaccinated. Out of that, 2,400 were hospitalized, and that's 0.07%. And then out of that turns into 0.01% on death rate, and that's generally over 65. Them are the last two numbers, the hospitalization rate and the death rate, are generally over 65 years of age. I thought a real key stat, because I'm working on my teenagers and to get vaccinated, but there's a statistic in Minnesota that over the age of 16, 74% are vaccinated in Minnesota. That seems really high to me.
That does seem high.
It seems really high, yeah.
That's what was told on our meeting, so, and I did clarify that too, and the doctor did come back and say that is correct. So, other than that, that's all I had.
Okay, and I had one meeting that I had other obligations I had to attend to, a different one, so. Okay, moving forward, commissioner concerns.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I do have one, not really a concern. I know that we were talking about potentially Human Services getting a position covered that we had in our levy budget. And there seemed to be a good percentage chance that we would get that. I would just offer up, I know our final levy conversation is gonna be happening. Instead of that going back, I really truly believe that Sheriff Heck is running into some staffing issues and not just in the jail, but as law enforcement and deputies on the street. I think the chances of him being fully staffed all the time are slim, I will say. And I would offer, if that position does come available from Human Services, that we at least put it on the table to offer that position to Sheriff Heck, knowing that the chances of it being fully staffed all the time are slim. It gives them flexibility to have an extra deputy, so when somebody leaves or gets backgrounded for other places, that he has that flexibility. That was all I had.
Commissioner Kapinski, just for clarification, you were talking about the initial request that the sheriff had for an additional deputy?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's probably something we could put on the committee of a whole. Monty,
Yes, yeah,
coming up,
that's what I'm thinking of, yep. You ready to move on to that one then?
I'm ready to move on.
So, right, so we need to schedule a committee of the whole for a few things. Final budget review, review any proposed fee schedule changes, and discuss elected official salaries for 2022. So, I would suggest some point in early December for that, if possible. Now, the calendar's a little different this year because we moved all of our meetings a week later. So final budget and levy adoption will not occur until December 28th. So, there's definitely more flexibility there in terms of dates. So, I would just suggest you start, have this committee of the whole maybe I would say about the 21st and earlier. The 21st and earlier. It gives me time to get together resolutions and things like that for the board packet on the 28th. So the 21st and earlier.
So we have a board meeting on the 14th at night.
We
correct?
do, right. That's the night one for TNT.
Truth and taxation, yeah.
What about the first week in December? What do people have open on that Tuesday, the 7th?
So that annual
AMC.
conference,
Oh, I guess we're gone.
So AMC is the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
I guess my thought would be, do we need to wait till December? Is there a reason why we can't get going on this?
Not necessarily, no. Waiting won't really produce any additional information at this point. No, so I've asked departments to give me their fee schedule proposals by November 15th. So you could certainly have it towards the end of November if you wish to.
Mr. Chair, I would like to see, based on what I just said earlier, if that human services position potentially, because they're supposed to hear end of November.
And which one
December.
are you speaking of?
The homeless.
The homeless
The
position?
homeless
Yep.
position, yeah, the grant that they came in front of
Oh,
us.
okay.
That was a 2-year grant, I
2
believe.
years, correct.
So I guess your window is from 3 days from today until about December 21st. That's kind of your window, I would suggest.
How would you feel about Tuesday the 30th or Wednesday the 1st? Is that enough time to get the results back from what you're looking for from the human services end? Or is that gonna be too tight?
That might be tight. What happens if we did it on the 13th of December after the human services call? Is that gonna be a bad one?
The 13th of December. Yeah.
Do we have a cow that day with human services?
I will be gone that whole day.
Okay.
That's when I'm scheduled.
Okay.
Is everyone intending to be at the annual conference on Wednesday the 8th?
That's only till noon anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it should be done by noon.
We could have it the 29th and we could
Of November.
table, we could make some assumptions
We
and
do have a broadband committee meeting that.
after that, yeah.
We do have a broadband committee meeting that day.
Well, what about the 30th on the Tuesday?
I'm okay with that.
I'm good with that.
November 30th, Tuesday.
Beth,
Looks like wide open.
Beth?
I forgot my calendar. I'm sure that'll be fine.
Okay,
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock,
That was my intention.
November 30th. Okay, sure. Alrighty. So again, it's final budget review, fee schedule, and elected official salaries. So we have our salary survey done for you for elected officials, and it's probably part of your packet.
Okay.
Yep.
Plan for what, hour and a half meeting?
I would say 9 minutes at the most.
Okay.
Yeah, should be fine. Okay.
then,
And Beth
you'll
wants me to mention too, the AMC annual conference is December 6th, 7th, and 8th, and is that Bloomington, I believe?
Yep.
And she has registered you all for it and made the hotel arrangements. So add those two.
And you'll
Perfect.
reach out to Commissioner Pop about our cow
You
for the
bet.
30th?
You bet.
Just in regards to the hotel reservations, I think I have a note, we wanna make sure that if we're not going, we need to communicate with Beth, I think, to make sure we're canceling an evening or something.
Yeah.
Please.
I believe that's by the 15th of this month. Okay, so just wanna make sure that I know I may be changing something, so that's why I wanted
Okay,
to make sure
thank
to bring
you.
it up.
And I do have reservations for Johnson, Pop, Gopinski, and Heinen, and Monty from the 5th through the 8th. So
That'd be Sunday.
and then
Yep, Sunday
Beth-
night, yep.
Yep,
Right.
Beth, I think I have you from for Monday and Tuesday, so the 6th and the 7th, and you'll be leaving on the 8th. So just let me know if you need me to change anything. And there's, parking, there's free parking, so there's.
Thank you,
Usually
Beth.
the events begin very early Monday morning.
They
So
do.
sometimes it's kind of nice to drive down the night before, especially there's always a chance of bad weather.
And then you can get your packet Sunday night too, usually around 7.
You kind of get settled in before things start early Monday morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the meetings usually start at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I don't remember, but they do start early on Monday morning.
Yes. The policy, usually with breakfast and policy
Yep.
committee meetings.
No other cows?
Yep.
I'll
Entertain a
move
motion.
I'll move to set the committee of the whole dates as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, you got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.